fast-track accreditation application of the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, the accreditation panel recommends that 5Cs be accredited as a regional implementing entity of adaptation fund. So, if there are no objections, then it's approved. And thank you very much. I think we can move to next agenda. On the item on the agenda, that will be the report of the PPRC. And therefore, I would like to invite the chair of the PPRC to present the report. Susana Prover, you're muted.
Yes, I was listening. Hi, hello. So many thanks, Vice Chair. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate you as Vice Chairs and also the Chair. And I will deliver this report as on my capacity of Vice Chair. So the 29th meeting of the PPRC took place on April the 5th and 6th in a hybrid format. The agenda of the meeting was adopted by the members as presented, and the meeting was chaired by me as Vice Chair. Following the adoption of the PPRC agenda, a representative of the Secretariat presented the report of the Secretariat on the initial screening and technical review of the project and program proposal under agenda item 4. And the report included the funding status and the situation of the pipeline according to the latest financial report presented by the trustee as of 31st December 2021. The report also included an overview of the financial resources available for the regional projects and programs, highlighting that $34.06 million remain from the initial amount approved for regional programming for fiscal year 2022. As part of the issues identified during the review process, the representative from the Secretariat highlighted the continuous increase in the number of submitted proposals, particularly since the adoption of the Board Decision B36/41 regarding the raise of oil in the country cap. The agenda item 5 and 6 was about the review of single country project and program proposals, and also the review of the proposals. A representative of the Secretariat presented the report, and during the meeting, the committee adopted recommendations for 26 concrete project and program proposals. Accredited implemented entities have submitted 22 single country project proposals to the Secretariat for a total requested funding amounted to $154.9 million, and also submitted 4 proposals for regional projects totaling $55.2 million. Specifically, and I think you can see in the report that the PPRC report that has been circulated, the PPRC recommended that the board approves 2 fully developed single country proposals, namely those for Trinidad and Tobago and Kyrgyzstan. The committee has also recommended the endorsement of 9 single country concepts, namely for Benin, 2 concept notes, Costa Rica, Uganda, Papua New Guinea, Cabo Verde, Nicaragua, Philippines, and Sri Lanka, and also the approval of 3 project formulation grants requested for Benin, Costa Rica, and Uganda. With respect to the regional projects and programs, the PPRC is recommended the approval of 1 proposal to be implemented FAO in Chad and Sudan. The total funding to be set aside according to the recommendations for single country and regional projects and programs amount to $34.1 million. On relation to agenda item 7 and 8, that is the one regarding the report of the Secretariat of Initial Screening and Technical Review of Enhanced Direct Access projects and the review of the proposals, a representative from the Secretariat indicated that 2 enhanced direct access grants have been received and technically reviewed by the Secretariat with a total requested funding amounting to $10 million. The 2 proposals submitted were concept notes for Peru and the United Republic of Tanzania. The PPRC took note of the report presented by the Secretariat, and that was followed by the review of the 2 proposals, which the committee recommended not to endorse. The next agenda items, number 9 and number 10, were about the report of the Secretariat on initial screening and technical review of large innovation project proposals and the review of the proposals. The committee discussed the report. The representative from the Secretariat indicated that 3 innovation large grants had been received and technically reviewed by the Secretariat, with total requested funding amounting to $14.9 million. The 3 large innovation grants included a fully developed proposal for Bangladesh, a concept note by Egypt, and a regional pre-concept note for the Republic of the Gambia and the United Republic of Tanzania. The Secretariat highlighted the issues identified during the review process regarding the quality at entry of application, including the use of the right template, familiarization to the guidance available on the website, and the need for proposals to present a clear definition on the innovation rationale. The committee took note of the report that was followed by the review of the 3 proposals, of which the committee recommended the endorsement of the concept note for Egypt and the regional pre-concept note for Gambia. Agenda item 11 and 12 was about small grant proposals. That was the report and the review of the proposals. In the meeting, a representative from the Secretariat presented the report, highlighted that the Secretariat received only 1 small grant submitted for Uganda for a total requested amount of $250,000. The PPRC took note of the report, and that was followed for the review of this innovation small grant proposal, and the committee recommended its approval. Under the next agenda item 13, a representative from the Secretariat presented the report of the Secretariat on the intersessional review cycle for readiness grant, highlighting that the Secretariat received 2 readiness grants which could not be considered for the review due to incompleteness. The Secretariat noted that the grant application form could be updated to enable applicants to provide additional information, and highlighted that this process would not cause a bottleneck, but rather provide greater clarity in the review process. The committee took note of the report and recommended the approval of the updated application form and the template for readiness grants. The committee decided to defer agenda item number 14, that was about the request for project major change for intersessional consideration due to a lack of time. Under agenda item 15, that was about funding provisions for regional projects and programs and for Enhanced Direct Access Project for the fiscal year 2023. We have the discussion, and the PPRC recommended the approval of the funding provision for each funding window, $60 million for regional programming and $20.2 million for enhanced direct access projects. Under agenda item 16, we discussed the report on the full cost of adaptation reasoning. A representative from the Secretariat presented the report, highlighting that the Secretariat has carried a stakeholder consultations whose results were presented to the committee yesterday. The Secretariat presented the issues regarding co-financing approaches and discussed different options for these approaches. The committee took note of the report and recommended that the Secretariat develop through a consultative process a guidance on optional co-financing based on the current interpretation of the full cost of adaptation and present a draft for the PPRC consideration at the 31st meeting. Under agenda item 17, analysis of the issues related to the use of unidentified projects USP. A representative from the Secretariat presented the analysis, highlighting the recent review cycles, that these recent review cycles have shown a large proportion of submissions with USPs without a proper justification for the issues. The Secretariat provides the benefits and complexities on the use of USPs and describe the adaptation fund portfolio analysis undertaken to understand how USPs are presented. The committee took note of the analysis and recommended the Secretariat to prepare a document containing updating guidance on USPs, including also further elaboration criteria on the use of USPs in a project or program, and to present it for consideration by the PPRC at the next meeting. Agenda item 18 was about the clarification of regional implementation and execution costs. A representative from the Secretariat presented this report, underlining the issues identified on the lack of guidance for IEs that are partially executing a project or program in the case of a regional project or programs. The Secretariat also highlighted the challenges and opportunities for defining a clear guidance for IEs on this matter. Then the PPRC took note of the analysis presented and recommended to set an upper limit to the implemented entity and execution cost fees at 10% each, and to limit execution cost at 1.5% to the part of the project or program executed by the IEs. Regarding agenda item 19, that was the report on the indicators of innovation, a representative from the Secretariat presented the report, which provided information on the process for piloting the use of indicators of innovation. The Secretariat pointed out the purpose of the guidance document and the indicators alignment with the strategic result framework of the fund. Then the committee took note of the report and recommended the approval of the guidance to the implemented entities of the revised pilot indicators under outcome 8 of the strategic result framework. Close to the end. So agenda I haven't finished, sorry, just the final one. Under agenda item 20, options for further supporting the work of the PPRC. Under this agenda item, the Secretariat presented the report highlighting the number of projects that the number of project submissions has grown, and so has the workload of the PPRC. The Secretariat provided different options to organize the PPRC work in light of increasing submission trends and workload, emphasizing the pros and cons of each option and the possibility to pilot some of them on the new funding windows. The committee took note of the report presented by the Secretariat, and we had a long and rich discussion really, where several PPRC members recognized the high quality of the work presented by the Secretariat and raised concerns that with an increasing workload and without additional staff, the quality of the work risks to be compromised. Several members of the committee note the actual growth of volume of work and the disproportionality, small changes in the Secretariat staff carrying out of the work, and call for an urgent consideration of an increase in the project review staff in order to ensure delivery, given the trends observed in the creation of this committee. Other members also point out that there was a significant imbalance in the workloads of both committees, the PPRC and the EFC, and note that the options for further supporting the work of the PPRC should be developed on a basis of a strengthened staff force. The PPRC members did not wish to see an increase in reliance on the intersessional review cycle. One member of the committee raised the issue of information and technological limitations and difficulty in accessing many proposals to review. After that discussion, the PPRC decided to recommend to the board to defer the discussion until further discussion by the board on staffing for the Secretariat project review team, and to request the Secretariat to prepare an updated document to be discussed intersessionally. So with that, the PPRC would like to present 40 recommendations on the screen for the consideration and request the board to adopt the recommendations. Back to you, Vice Chair. I'm sorry for being too long. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this very comprehensive report. Thank you very much for the work you have done. All the colleagues on PPRC is really an enormous amount of work. So thank you very much. And now I'll open the floor for discussion. So anybody? Okay. Kevin was faster, so go ahead.
Yes, many thanks, Chair, and thanks so much to the PPRC for their really hard work on this, as well as the Chair of PPRC for this very comprehensive report. The US is extremely supportive of the Adaptation Fund's project and program work, including its growing focus on innovation, its ongoing discussions about complementarity with other funds, and efforts to scale up those collaborations. I think we're also very encouraged by this committee-based process, which, at least for me personally, allows for really deep engagement with project proposals in a way that other funds may not always allow for, and the culture of continuing to support development of proposals and ensure high quality programming. I think one key element that will be important for us moving forward is having an opportunity for non-members of the PPRC to provide comment and participate in that process. So looking forward to that being considered in the future. Additionally, the United States appreciates the opportunity to provide specific comments on projects, programs, and concepts under consideration by the Adaptation Fund Board during this meeting. We would request that the following statements with regard to one project concept and one project proposal are incorporated into the written record of the Adaptation Fund Board meeting. We will also submit these statements to the Secretariat in writing. The United States, in light of its policies for certain development projects in countries whose governments are not addressing trafficking in persons, and the Nicaragua Human Rights and Anti-Corruption Act of 2018, opposes and therefore does not join an Adaptation Fund Board decision that would support AF Concept 262 in Nicaragua. The United States, in light of its policies related to development projects in Sudan, opposes and therefore does not join an Adaptation Fund Board decision that would support AF Project 248 in Chad and Sudan. Thank you.
Much, Kevin, Matthias.
Thank you, Chair. And I would like to echo your thanks to the PPRC for and the Secretariat for their hard work this week and in preparation of this week. They have brought forward important matters, not only projects, but also issues such as co-financing, which I hope will further bring benefit to the Adaptation Fund. I just have one question to the Secretariat, actually, and that would be if there is a possibility to let the board know when proposals are uploaded on its website, draft proposals. There is a website, I think it's called Proposals Currently Under Review. So that would be helpful just for non-members as well of the PPRC, just to be informed that these projects are coming up, and if it's project in a country where we have specific relationships or working on this topic with this country, for instance, it could be interesting to be informed at least that this is coming up. So it's difficult to know when it's, for instance, the last time before this meeting, I saw belatedly that these documents are actually available online. So it would just be helpful to a quick, uncomplicated boss to us, and that would do the trick, I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It looks like a good suggestion. Maybe we can take note of that. Mikhail?
Thanks a lot again, Vice Chair, and thank you to the Secretariat for that. Sorry, Susanna, for that helpful presentation of the work that the PPRC is doing. I have some clarifications on the agenda item 16. And I was reading the policy document on it, having discussions as well with my colleague who also is the alternate but sits on that committee, and we had those similar questions. There is, I guess, how did we come from full cost of adaptation to a discussion on co-financing? It's quite an interesting stretch. It wasn't clearly outlined. Also, the reason and the need for the guidance. What is the specific, I guess, mischief that we're trying to address by having this co-financing guidance? And so it would be really good to get an understanding from the Secretariat on what exactly that means. And the reason why I say that, and we have these discussions all the time in the context of funds, and what the calculation of co-financing does as it relates to developing countries, especially NIEs, regional entities trying to get funding, is that these guidance around co-financing does create this additional step as it relates to project proposal potentially. And I guess it's not necessarily the black and white sort of implications of it saying that co-financing is applied. I know that it's saying it's optional. It's just then when it's applied by the Secretariat, if it's potentially linked to matters of performance or impact, then it has issues and ramifications, especially for countries that can't find the co-financing. And if we go beyond to discuss things like ratios, it just treads into really dangerous territory and goes somewhat against what we have all said in multiple forums, that the Adaptation Fund is doing an excellent job in looking at concrete adaptation action on the ground and filling that niche, especially using that term that we have in the midterm strategy discussion. So all that to say is it actually solving an issue and solving a mischief by having this guidance and looking at that scope for that agenda item? So just a question on utility of it is one thing. And if it is, because I don't see it currently in the document that's being presented. And I see a jump and a stretch. The next is agenda item 18, and it brings a broader cost on implementation and execution costs, not only in the sort of idea of regional projects, but as well as national projects. And having that discussion on if it is included in the country allocation, so these costs, these project management costs, from my understanding, it's basically taking away from funding that could go to the actual outcomes, especially noting that we have a cap of 20 million, at least for the national ones. The regional ones, I think the cap was 50 odd million, but I think we need to have a discussion systemically in the AF about that and making sure that that 20 million, at least in the national sense, goes just to concrete adaptation, and then everything additional would sort of be outside of that budget, and then AF will provide funding for execution costs, project management costs, all the other sort of trimmings outside of that, so that we can get bang for our buck in relation to the country allocation, because there's limited funding. It just seems a bit unfair to cut into the side that's supposed to be with that, the adaptation interventions. So those two things. So 18, just a general comment, and something hopefully we can discuss future in the board to kind of remedy. But 16, just urgent sort of questions to the Secretariat, as I stated before on 16. Thanks a lot, Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. Next on my list, Patience, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. And first of all, let me just indicate that I share your views, and I mean, in terms of having the full cost of adaptation being implemented, and the issue of the co-financing. So as was indicated in the PPRC, I mean, it's something that we do not support anyway, but I'm not responding. I'm sure maybe the Secretariat will respond to that question, but I mean, I share this. And secondly, I wasn't too sure what Kevin was talking about. So perhaps, I mean, I think you were speaking so fast, so I didn't really get what you were talking about. So could you please clarify? Because you mentioned something about project in Sudan and something. So if you can please clarify. Thank you.
Kevin, if you want to clarify, you have 1 minute.
Sure, happy to do that. So just very briefly on this, there are a number of instances where the United States has legal mandates that influence the way that we are allowed to vote and conduct ourselves in regard to funding of certain projects in certain countries. And those mandates apply to a couple of concepts and projects that have been proposed for funding by the PPRC. So we would like it recorded for the record. Our opposition to those decisions, and we'll note that we will not be joining that consensus, and also happy for the Secretariat to clarify what that means from a process perspective, but we're happy to submit those statements in writing as well. But hopefully that clarifies, and happy to turn it over to the Secretariat colleagues for their thoughts on procedurally how this works. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope that's clarified. And Washington, you have the floor now.
Thank you very much, the Deputy Chair, and also thanks very much to the Deputy Chair of the PPRC for the elaborate presentation. Mine, of course, one is to do with co-financing, which generally we've been trying to move away from, especially in the developing world, who survive below the poverty datum line, and GDP so low, and we put another extra burden of co-financing for adaptation projects, which are supposed to deal with the issues which are also aggravating their livelihoods. So the issue of co-financing, of course, as we move into the future, should be looked at quite seriously. My other issue is on the success and failure rate of some of these projects from the table 1, and I think it raises some alarm bells on what really is happening. Why are we having projects submitted? You find those approved maybe is less than 5% of all those submitted. It means there is a real problem that the board may need to look at in terms of how to capacitate the various countries, NIEs, and so forth, to come up really with projects that would be bankable, because some of the projects really they are to address real issues, but probably there is something missing which requires capacitation of these countries. So as we look into the budgeting for the future, also we need to look at how we could enhance the readiness support for the various countries to ensure that they are better placed to address and come up with these projects. The last one actually is also related to Kevin, how he presented it. Myself is the first time in this board, and just as a matter of procedure, I wanted to know whether in the board we can speak in terms of the country, was or we speak in terms of being a board member, because I don't know whether I can express also that my country does not support a certain project. I don't know. I just want to know as we move into the future whether I can say my country does not allow this when we are sitting in the board, because it differs from board to board. So I also need to learn, because I could equally say I support the project. My country supports the project in Sudan and Chad. You see, this is, we just want to know how this operates, so that for the future we know also how to handle such issues. And so this I would end there. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a number of other flags, so let's take these few questions, and I think we can ask the legal expert. Victor, I think, is your next.
Thank you, Vice. Sí, yo me voy a referir a los statements, ¿verdad?, que nuestro colega Kevin por los Estados Unidos mencionó. Y les voy a ser muy franco y muy directo al board. Yo he estado también, y creo que algunos de los que están aquí han participado en el Green Climate Fund. Y ese era un riesgo que nosotros veíamos venir al permitir, ¿verdad?, a los Estados Unidos, y entiendo perfectamente la posición de Kevin, porque es un mandato legal de ese país, lo cual se respeta. Pero lo que hay que entender es que estos son proyectos técnicos que van a países los más vulnerables y van a nivel de la población más pobre y más vulnerable, que no hay razón de mezclar la alta política o la geopolítica.
Victor, sorry, we
Please
have a
excuse,
problem
there
with
is not
translation.
interpreted. There is no interpretation.
Is that okay now?
No.
There is no translation. We can? Okay. Go ahead. Okay.
Yes, we can.
To start from the beginning?
Thank you.
No, gracias. Sí, bueno, es preferible que lo diga en español, en mi idioma. Hay traducción, ¿verdad? Ok, gracias, Bache. Me quería referir al comentario de nuestro colega y amigo Kelvin, lo cual estaba diciendo que entiendo perfectamente y tiene todo su derecho en los Estados Unidos de América de tener esa posición legal y él está comprometido profesionalmente y laboralmente a seguir las instrucciones que le da su país al cual él representa en este board. Tengo que hacer una pequeña historia. Yo era de los que, y estoy viendo que no estaba muy fuera de mi preocupación. Algunos de nosotros que estamos aquí hemos participado y seguimos participando en el Fondo Verde del Clima, lo cual se ha presentado, como se ha presentado, creo que por primera vez, una situación como la que Kelvin ha puesto sobre la mesa del board. Y ese era un riesgo que había que correr al dejar que entrara países como los Estados Unidos, que es miembro del Acuerdo de París, pero no es miembro del Protocolo de Kioto. Pero bueno, ellos están acá y son bienvenidos y esperamos que ellos apoyen fuertemente financieramente. Lo que no queremos recordarles que estos proyectos van dirigidos a los países más vulnerables y más pobres del mundo en vías de desarrollo. Y no solamente a los países, sino que van directamente a las poblaciones más empobrecidas de nuestros países, lo cual yo creo que se le hace un daño tremendo cuando se le objeta un proyecto que está bien concebido, etcétera, etcétera. A lo que me voy, quisiera que quizás Kelvin, no sé, o el board, porque obviamente tenemos que estar preparados hacia el futuro. Y en el Green Climate Fund hay un mecanismo que duró años sin que hubieran votaciones y finalmente, pues después de unos 3 años, 4 años de ejercicio en el Fondo Verde del Clima, eventualmente esa negación de aprobar proyectos de parte de algunos países hacia proyectos de países que ellos objetaban por regulaciones legales de sus propios países, se llevaban a votación, lo cual dilataba mucho el proceso. Últimamente, si mal no recuerdo, y yo creo que Maikay me puede esclarecer, ha habido, en el Fondo Verde ha habido todavía un paso de avance. Los países como el que representa a Kelvin, pues objetan, pero dejan sobre la mesa que ellos no son un detente, un obstáculo para que se apruebe el proyecto. O sea, ellos dejan que se diga que ellos no están de acuerdo con el proyecto, pero que ellos no van a detener el proceso de que se apruebe el proyecto. Quizás, y yo me estoy adelantando, quizás, porque yo veo que cuando vengan esas situaciones específicas de aprobar o no aprobar un proyecto, pues vamos a tener horas y horas de discusiones. Es cuanto. Gracias.
Thank you very much. I think at this point, I would like to ask Yang to clarify the legal framework in which we're operating. Yang, can you please take the floor?
Sure. Thank you, Vice Chair. Can you hear me well?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. Happy to clarify on this issue. So as per paragraph 44 of the rules of the procedure of the Adaptation Fund Board, the decision of the board is taken by consensus whenever possible. In addition, I'd like to draw your attention to paragraph 47, in which the chair is entitled to ascertain and declare that a consensus is reached if there is no stated objection to the proposed decision under consideration by a member or alternate acting for a member. It is also noteworthy that as per paragraphs 6 and 46 of the Rules of Procedure, an alternate can cast a vote only if she or he is acting for a member in the absence of a member or when requested by a member in writing. Accordingly, Kevin's statement was made in his capacity as an alternate, not acting for a member, and it does not amount to the stated objection by a member or alternate acting for a member as set out in paragraph 47 of the Rules of Procedure. Suffice to say, therefore, as per paragraphs 47, 46, and 6 of the Rules of Procedure, the board can proceed with decision-making on the proposals concerned, and the statement made by Kevin in his capacity as an alternate can be recorded in the official meeting report. Thank you. Over to you, Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. I think that's clarified quite a bit, but I think I will take other two that I have on my list to intervention, and then we'll go to recommendation. Ali, please take the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and let me join the others in commending the PPRC committee for the good work that they have done for the last 2 days. I think the approvals are significant. I was just doing quick arithmetics and realized that the approved so far is 20% of the available funds from what we were told. So that's a significant number. And about 40% of the single countries were also approved. And I realized that in the single country submissions, the NIEs did not succeed, but rather the regional and multilaterals were more favored in terms of approvals. So it begs the question, what needs to be done in order to support NIEs to become up to speed for their proposals to get approved? The other question that I want to pose is, which, for my own clarification, I'm not very sure how often or how many times do these projects come back to the board before they eventually get approved. I just wanted some clarity on that. Of course, I must point out that I'm very concerned that the ones that have not received approval for the NIEs are largely from the African continent, which is very depressing. And we will want to see how that can be improved so that we can improve the capacities of the NIEs going forward. And now, coming back to the issue that Kevin raised, of course, we take note of the position of his government, but I just want to underscore that, as Victor said, the adaptation fund really is a unique fund that addresses the concerns and the challenges of communities and people who are most vulnerable and affected. And despite the political situations in the governments and the countries, the people for whom it's intended are most needy. And we hope that this board can differentiate and distinguish between the politics of countries and the neediness and the vulnerability of the communities for whom it's intended, and hence the earlier emphasis on issues of fragility and conflict, because most of those, I think that the countries that Mr. Kevin has pointed out, that they are in conflict, and it's because of that maybe United States has reservations, but the community and the people there are very needy, and they need all our support. Finally, Chair, I just want to echo and agree with the sentiments with regarding to co-financing. I think that is a challenge as brought out by Kai and others, and I think this is something that we don't want to bring additional burden to countries for submitting adaptation fund proposals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your comments are noted, and I think Fatou, now you have the floor.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you for those who have mentioned about the co-financing. As my colleagues have indicated, if co-financing is not defined properly at the start of the project, it may cause problems because from my own experience, I have 3 different types. I know about 3 different types of co-financing. And if co-financing is going to hinder a project and make it laid back at this stage, and we're dealing with concrete adaptation measures for vulnerable countries, and I think that we should be more considerate for those countries in which the projects are being implemented. I mean, if we have if we have a breakdown of that, maybe it could help in the decision of co-financing, because if it means additional burden, even the co-financing problem brings in, I mean, the write-up of the projects themselves it's a big problem. And also providing the finance, which is called the co-financing, in whichever way, whether material, place, or physical cash, or finance itself. So I therefore think we should very much think about the co-financing aspect of this board, because I don't think it will be taken up positively if the Adaptation Fund Board comes up with co-financing for the most vulnerable countries, taking the share of proceeds to fund this board. So I think we need to be very careful. In the boards that I have served, and committees and whatever it's called, I have served in my own capacity, although I'm coming from the Gambia, which is inside Africa, but in my own capacity. I have had a reading of the rules of procedures, 6, 45, and 47. I don't know, 46 or 47, whichever was read here. If we are all here in our own personal capacities to make this board work, so I don't know. That is why in the CDM executive board that I have served and the JI, when it comes to conflict of interest, it's not automatic that your country is being discussed, therefore you go out. No, you have to feel the conflict of interest in you, that you are conflicted. And you can sit in the room without commenting, or when the decisions are being made, you don't make the decisions. That is now taking into consideration in your own capacity. But if we are dealing now with each individual country, as Zakata has said, I don't know how we are going to move with our decisions as a board. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. And I think there were a number of precise questions. And maybe Sally, can you comment on the each possibility of resubmissions and maybe some other comments you want to make?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Vice Chair. And I think maybe on the issue of sending a notification to the board members when proposals are posted, that's something we can certainly do. Concerning the comments made regarding the approvals or low levels of approvals of submissions from NIEs. Indeed, in this particular review cycle, we had many submissions and not as many approvals. However, Please note that many of the proposals were submitted for the first time. As for those that have been resubmitted as fully developed proposals, it is not unusual for proposals to undertake several rounds of reviews before they are approved. And they, we try to maintain a technical standard for all proposals. I do want to point out that among the few approvals that have been recommended, there is an approval by for an NIE, and actually it's Uganda's ministry, the MOWE, Ministry of Water and Environment, which has been recommended for approval of the Small Innovation Grant. As mentioned there, we had very good number of first-time submissions of concept proposals. I'm happy to say that there is a number of NIEs whose concepts have been endorsed or recommended for endorsement, I should say. And a good number of those, about half, I would say, are from African NIEs. I hope that this reassures members a bit, and there is always some variation. It's not possible to predict how many approvals or endorsements will be ready. Of course, at the end of any review cycle, and this happens to be one of those where we had lots of proposals, but not many were deemed ready for approval. But a good number, and this is a promising signal, we thought merit an endorsement.
Albar, take the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair, and thank you, colleagues, for that interesting discussion. Maybe before I move to the substance of what I initially had my flag up for, I just want to highlight that when I came to this board, I came as a representative of developing countries, representing the Asia Pacific group, and I've been listening very closely to the discussion that is happening, and I will not be repetitive of the excellent points that I've heard by many colleagues, but I want to strongly stress that the Adaptation Fund is a fund that has been operating in a very smooth and way and achieving tangible great results. Colleagues actually mentioned that the projects are targeting the most vulnerable communities and countries, and we really do leave our homes, travel 1,000 miles, and leave many things behind to come here and make sure that the fund actually fulfill its mandates and deliver on those projects, which already go through a very complex process that the Secretariat do, and we as a board are supposed to support that work by the Secretariat. We're supposed to really be looking at the bigger picture of achieving tangible results and helping and supporting the most vulnerable and the poorest countries and communities. I believe that we should definitely have this as a standard way of working with the fund and leave our positions and political differences behind and focus on achieving what the fund is supposed to be achieving. Moving to the main reason I had my flag up also is to highlight that we yesterday at the PPRC, we had a very important discussion and a point that was raised by several board members, committee members for that fact, with regards to the staffing of the Secretariat. I believe that one of the major comments that came up yesterday when we discussed how to support the work of the PPRC was really that there is definitely a need, and this need has been highlighted by many board members, including myself, yesterday at the PPRC meeting, that we definitely need to make sure that the Secretariat would have more resources allocated to them, would have additional staffing. There is a small team at the Secretariat. They're already doing great, fantastic work that we are already seeing, and we have the documents and papers and results ahead of us. But I believe it's very important for us to make sure that this is a topic that is given serious attention. And I will leave it at this for now, and maybe we'll come back later with the further comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this really important statement. I have one request for the floor by Marc-Antoine. I would like to ask him to be very, very synthetic, because we have a very hard deadline at 6:30 because the translator have to go, and I would like to get to recommendation before we close. So Marc-Antoine, please.
Merci, merci, Monsieur le Vice-président. Je vais donc être bref. Je voudrais intervenir d'abord en remerciant la présentation qui a été faite par Susanna, qui est très exhaustive, et en insistant sur le point numéro 20 du rapport. Le point numéro 20 du rapport porte sur l'implication du Conseil dans la décision du périmètre d'équipe du secrétariat. Donc là, il est renvoyé au Conseil une décision, et il est proposé que ça puisse se faire même par session intersessionnelle. Donc il me paraît important de souligner ce point, car il y a urgence. Comme l'a dit Tafik, la question du staffing est posée. Je voudrais ajouter le fait que non seulement le PPRC examine les projets selon le processus qui garantit sa qualité, et ça c'est très important, il a examiné plus d'une trentaine d'opérations, et on reçoit les dossiers quelques jours avant la réunion, donc il y a là un challenge pour le secrétariat comme pour les membres du PPRC. Mais en plus de ça, le PPRC examine des documents de stratégie. Quand on parle d'innovation, d'indicateurs d'innovation, de projets US Unidentified Subproject, de full cost, de conformité, etc., on voit bien qu'il y a une relation dialectique entre la connaissance des projets et la pertinence des stratégies qu'on peut proposer. Et ça donne, ce temps-là est extrêmement important parce que ça donne des méthodes. Et donc, on voit bien qu'il est indispensable que le PPRC puisse discuter sur la base de documents bien cadrés, bien étudiés, en faisant confiance d'une certaine manière au secrétariat, à condition que celui-ci ait eu le temps d'examiner. Et ce matin, Nico nous expliquait qu'il y avait des réformes qui avaient été faites et qu'on utilisait les consultants. Attention, les consultants produisent un travail que s'ils sont bien cadrés. Et l'exercice de capitalisation, c'est au secrétariat et au conseil de le faire. Donc là, mon intervention, c'est donc pour demander au conseil de se prononcer très vite au moment de la décision intersessionnelle qui a été proposée dans la résolution numéro 20. Merci.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think we have a very, very wide discussion. So I think we have reached a point where we can, I can bring to the board the report of the PPRC and therefore the series of recommendations that are several. So what I will do is that I will read the title with the decision, with the essential decision, and try to see what's the opinion. So let's start with the recommendation number one. That's PPRC.29-1 is the recommendation of PPRC that the board includes in work program for fiscal year 2023 an amount about 60 million to be set aside for as follows: 59 million for funding a regional project and program proposals, and 1 million for funding a project formulation grant requests for preparing regional project and program concept of fully developed project documents. Okay, I can see no objection, so this is approved. Then we go to agenda item 5. This is a review of single project and program proposals. First proposal, this is recommendation PPRC.29/2 is a project in Niger, agriculture, climate resilient value chain development in Niger. Recommendation is not to approve. Okay, let's move to recommendation PPRC.29-3. This is a project in Tanzania, Karatu Climate Resilience and Adaptation Project for Adzabi and Daloga communities. The recommendation is not approved. Then I have recommendation 29-4. Is a project restoration on Lake Babati for enhanced climate change adaptation Babati district. The recommendation is not approved. Okay. Then I have recommendation 29-5 is enhancing resilience of communities and ecosystem in the face of a changing climate in arid and semi-arid areas in Zimbabwe. And the recommendation is not approved. Then I have recommendation 29-6 is multi-sectoral adaptation measure to climate change in the South Oropucho River Basin for flood relief. And the recommendation is approved. Okay. Then we have recommendation 29-7, increasing the adaptation capacity of resilience of rural communities to climate change in the Central African Republic. Recommendation is not approved. Okay. We move to 29-8, Regional Resilient Pastoral Communities Project. Recommendation is approved. Then we move to the concepts. And we have recommendation 29.9 for a concept. Title is Building Resilience to Climate Change in the Neighboring Population of the Classified Forests of Basila and Penesolu in the Central Region of Benin. And recommendation is to endorse the concept note. Recommendation 29-10 is project to strengthen food security and community resilience of climate change in the communes of Bukombe and Bopa. And this is a concept note. The recommendation is to endorse. Recommendation 29-11 is increasing the resilience of vulnerable population in Costa Rica by scaling up Adapta 2+. And recommendation is endorse the concept note. Then we have 29-12, strengthen the resilience of smallholder farmers to the effects of climate change through the adoption of proven innovative technology and practices. And the recommendation is not endorsed. Then we have 29-13 is Let's Save the Merendon, and the recommendation is not endorsed. 29-14 is Building a Program for Adaptation, Resilience in Climate Change on Andean Local Communities Ecosystem in Peru. The recommendation is not endorsed. Then we have 29-15, Enhancing Community Adaptation to Climate Change through Climate Resilient Flood Early Warning, Catchment Management, and Wash Technologies in Bologoma Catchment, Uganda. Recommendation is endorsed. We pass then to the proposal from regional implementing entities. Recommendation 29-16 is a project strengthening community resilience of rural population in the drylands of northwestern Argentina facing climate change, improving access to water, and implementation of sustainable land management practices. The recommendation is not endorsed. 29-17 is adaptation of small-scale agriculture for improved food security of resilient communities in Papua New Guinea. And the recommendation is to endorse. Is a concept note. Then we have the proposal for multilateral implementing entities. First one is 29-18, increasing the resilience of local communities to climate change through improved watershed management and land restoration. And the recommendation is endorsed. 29-19 is enhancing adaptive capacity in Lao PDR provinces and building resilient housing in vulnerable communities. The recommendation is not endorsed. Then we have 29-20, climate resilience and livelihoods in the Nicaraguan dry corridor, and the recommendation is to endorse. 29-21 is harnessing the water energy food nexus to address and adapt to climate change impacts in Tawi-Tawi, and the recommendation is endorsed. 29-22 is build resilience to climate change and climate variability of vulnerable communities, Mulai Tuivu district of Sri Lanka. Recommendation is endorsed. 29-23 is climate change adaptation through rural finance, not endorsed in Zambia. Then we have a review of regional project and program proposals. That will be agenda item 6. Recommendation is 29-24. Use of nature-based solution to increase resilience to extreme climate events in the Atlantic region of Central America. Recommendation is not approved. 29-25, increasing the resilience of the education system to climate change impacts in the Eastern Caribbean. Recommendation is not approved. And then we have 29-/26, sorry, I'm getting confused. Is strengthening resilience to climate and COVID-19 shocks through integrated water management on the Sudan-Chad border area. And the recommendation is to approve. 29-27, improve resilience of coastal communities in Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana. The recommendation is not approved. 29-28, fund for innovative solution adaptation in Peru, and the recommendation is not endorsed. And then we have 29-29 is building rural urban climate change adaptation nexus for sustained local economies development in Tanzania, and the recommendation is not endorsed. Then we have the review of large innovation project and program proposals. The first one is recommendation 29/30, access to safe drinking water for the climate vulnerable people in coastal areas of Bangladesh, and recommendation is not approved. 29/31, is building resilience in the old lands by combining innovation, irrigation, agriculture, and livelihood activities. Recommendation is to endorse. And then we have 2932, enhancing hydromet services through regional monitoring innovation hubs in Africa. And the recommendation is to endorse. Then we have a review of innovation of small grant proposal, agenda item 12, recommendation 2933, enhancing resilience to climate-induced flooding and drought through the deployment of a weather field barrier. Recommendation here is to approve the innovation small grant. Agenda item 13 is recommendation 29/34, is the report of the Secretary on the intersessional review of the readiness grants. This will require that, having considered the issue raised in the document AFB/PPRC.29/40, the Project and Program Review Committee decided to recommend the Adaptation Fund Board approve the updated application form for readiness package grants as presented in Annex 1 of the above document, approve the updated review template for readiness package grant as presented in Annex 2 of the same document, request the Adaptation Fund Board Secretariat to make available on the fund website the updated review templates and application form mentioned in subpara A and B above, and D, request the Adaptation Fund Board Secretariat to notify all accredited national implementing entities of the amended new application form and review templates for readiness package grants above. That would be recommendation 29/34. Then we have agenda item 15, funding provision for regional project and program and for enhanced direct access project for fiscal year 2023. Having considered the issue raised in document AFB PPRC.29/30, the Project and Program Review Committee decided to recommend the Adaptation Fund Board include in the work program for fiscal year 23 a provision for an amount of US 20.2 million to be provisionally set aside as follows: up to 20 million for the funding of enhanced direct access projects and up to $200,000 for the funding of project formulation grant requests for prevailing enhanced direct access fully developed projects document. That should be recommendation 29/35. Agenda item 16 is full cost of adaptation reasoning. Having considered the findings of the Secretariat on the cost of adaptation and co-financing as presented in document AFB/PPRC.29/4, the Project and Program Review Committee decided to recommend the Adaptation Fund Board request the Secretariat to develop through a consultative process guidance on optional co-financing based on the current interpretation of full cost adaptation, which inter alia, 1, define the scope and parameters for adaptation fund co-financing. 2, identifies the suite of financial instruments that can be utilized. 3, outlines pathways to address potential risk. And B, to present the draft guidance for the consideration of PPRC at its 31st meeting. Okay, there was recommendation 29/36. Before the close. Everything right now.
No, before this agenda item.
This one. Agenda item 17, analysis of the issues related to the use of unidentified sub-projects. This recommendation requires A, request the Secretariat to prepare a document containing updated guidance on identified sub-project, including further elaborated criteria on the use of USPs in a project program and to present it for consideration by PPRC at its 30th meeting. And B, encourage implementing entities to consult with the Secretariat on matters related to USPs during project program formulation. That was 29/37. Agenda item 18, clarification of regional implementation and execution costs. Having considered the issue raised in document AFB/PPRC.29/43, the Project and Program Review Committee decided to recommend the Adaptation Fund Board, A, set the upper limit for administrative costs of regional project programs at 10% of the project program costs for implementing entity, i.e. fees at a 10% of the project program costs for execution costs. B, request IEs in the exceptional cases where an IE provides part or all of the execution services. Roman I, to provide justification to demonstrate its advantages compared to other entities, agency, or organizations that could provide the selected execution services, particularly for the execution of activities at national or subnational level. Roman II, to limit the execution cost of the EIE to 1.5% of the cost of the part of the project or program executed by an implementing entity of the project program cost. And Roman III, where the actual execution cost of the EIE exceeds the 1.5% cap, to require the EIE to provide justification as part of its proposal submission if requesting costs beyond the cap on an exceptional case-by-case basis. That was 29/38. Agenda item 19, report on indicators for innovation. Having considered the issue raised in document AFB PPRC.29/44, the Project and Program Review Committee decided to recommend the Adaptation Fund Board, A, approve the revised outcome 8 of the Strategic Results Framework, SRF, as laid out in Table 3 on a pilot basis, as well as the guidance to implementing entities for application of innovation indicators in project programs described in document AFB PPRC.29/44, and B, request the Secretariat to propose amendments to its SRF, Project Performance Reports, and other relevant documents following the pilot phase for application of innovation indicators to the Project and Program Review Committee. And that was 29/39. And I understand, Nico, you want to say something before item 20? I read the text of the recommendation. That would be agenda item 20. That's options for further supporting the work of the PPRC. Having considered the issues raised in document AFB/PPRC.29/48, the PPRC decided to recommend that the Adaptation Fund Board, A, defer the discussion on this document by the PPRC until after further discussion of staffing of the Secretariat Project Review Team by the Board, and B, request the Secretariat to prepare an updated document to be considered intersessionally as needed, taking into account the outcome of the discussion in subparagraph A above. That would be 29/40. And is basically approved, but Nico, you want to say something?
Thank you very much, Chair. During this discussion on the PPRC's report, we've heard some comments from the board that came from the PPRC for more support for the project review related team of the Secretariat and specifically adding additional staff in the project review team of the Secretariat. And I would just like to say that we are very grateful for this show of willingness to ensure that the Secretariat has the appropriate capacity to do its work. The addition of additional staff in the Secretariat staffing structure was not included in the proposed budget that was discussed yesterday and the day before in the Ethics and Finance Committee, but this is not because the Secretariat would oppose it. In fact, the Secretariat would be extremely happy to receive, and it would come to a good need to receive such additional positions in the project review team. So for that purpose, the Secretariat would be happy to present tomorrow, if it will be useful, an alternative budget proposal for next fiscal year that would include 2 full-time positions in the project review team of the Secretariat. We will be happy to present that following this discussion if there would be such, if the board would welcome such a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this news. I think is welcome news. And I think we're dramatically over time, and probably it's been a long day, and it looks like we should probably close for the day. And tomorrow we resume at 1:15 as today, correct? Okay. Thank you very much, all of you colleagues. It's been tremendous work and a pleasure to be here. Okay, sure.
Sorry, Vice Chair, not to keep everybody back. The item 16, though, there was a lot of discussion and a lot of, I assume, hesitance against the discussion on it. So is it that it's adopted now, and that given all of this, like how is that being registered to ensure that, this is the caveat on the co-financing, that it does not balloon into something bigger than, I guess, what it is, and will that be reflected in the report? I don't know what, and so that there's clear understanding and guidance to the Secretariat on what this exactly is. It just wasn't clear.
It's work in progress. So this is not locking any particular definition of co-financing yet. So it's simply taking the issue in consideration.